Buenos dias, Carmen, and thank you for joining us today at Business Spotlights. Today, I am excited to introduce Carmen Cummiskey, founder and CEO of FOMO. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you for having me on. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Very nice accent. So, Carmen, first question, how do you end up, setting up this business?
Yeah, sure. So basically, FOMO started as a student project back in 2015. I was studying sports engineering at the University of Strathclyde. I'd never had the best relationship with body protectors for horse riding personally. Found them really bulky, restrictive, difficult to get on. And air jackets had started to become popular at the time, which had been a bit of a technology transfer over from motorsports. But there were lots of challenges with that, especially given the fact that they can sound almost like a gunshot when they go off. And if you're on a horse that's not expecting that, that can be quite dangerous. And my horse at the time hated the noise of them. So it was a little bit from my own experience. I had a bit of a light bulb moment when I seen a really famous rider have an air jacket go off when it wasn't meant to on television, and thought I can design something better than this. So it started as a student project. And from there, really sort of through arms and legs, I had entered a national competition called the Sports Innovation Challenge and won my first sort of bout of grant funding, which was quite exciting. Got to pitch in front of like the founder of My Protein and head of ladies wear for Adidas and stuff. And it just gave me the motivation to say, no, I'm going to not go ahead and do the two graduate jobs for a lot more money that I was offered. Straight out of university, and follow this. So that's really where it started from, was my own pain point. And from my research and speaking to riders before I started doing design work, I found that lots of other people had the same experience, and that's really how FOMO started.
Brilliant. And it's great to have a business spotlight, a young entrepreneur, of university, boom, business. That's quite, it's unusual. There are a few, but far in between. So that's great and very refreshing to see. How do you come up with the name FOMO? It's a very catchy name.
Yeah, so actually the business was originally called TechNox. So TEQ, so tech for technology, EQ for equestrian, and like an X on the end, because I read in a marketing book that anything with an X or a K in the name sells better. But it wasn't the easiest to remember. There's a couple of foam companies out there that have similar-ish names, and so I, at the early stages, had got together a bit of a kind of board, if you like. Nobody was kind of paid or anything, but some good mentors around me. And my chair at the time, Ian White and Gavin Mitchell, who is the MD of IMD Imaging, tasked me with coming up with a better name. And it was actually down a pub in Glasgow one night, myself and a few of my friends, and yeah, we were brainstorming, and my friend John said FOMO, and I said, that's great, love that. So instead of it being FOMO, it does stand for fear of missing out, but instead of it being FOMO about a night out with your friends or a holiday or something, it's FOMO about missing out in the sport that you love, whether that's through injury or performance inhibiting equipment.
Wow, very, very interesting story. Now, so the business, am I right to say that the business came up because of an injury you had yourself?
Yeah, so my first real experience of body protectors was when I was quite young. I think I was actually still in primary school. It was maybe about between 10 and 12. And I had quite a bad accident on the road. Car came speeding by. They were too close. The car swing mirror actually smacked off my foot and gave the horse quite a fright. And long story short, I was dragged along the road on my back. And so thankfully I didn't, have like any kind of serious injuries, if you like, but was pretty banged up. And my parents, like any good parents would, after that, whenever I was allowed to sort of get back on board, were like, you have to ride in a body protector. Now, my pony at the time was a little bit feisty. He was quite opinionated, and he was a great show jumper. But as he was going round, he used to like to do kind of bucks and handstands with me sometimes. And I actually felt more unsafe wearing one than I did without, because I just felt like I couldn't move and react how I usually would in the saddle. So yeah, soon after, the body protector got hidden and, sort of never to be seen again. And actually, I did have quite a worse fall than that. Before FOMO was launched, I already had the idea where a complete freak accident, a horse flipped backwards on top of me and I fractured my pelvis and was airlifted. So I definitely have had, the lived experience of what can happen when you aren't protected or things do go wrong, because as amazing as horse riding is, and they're such incredible animals, they are also large animals with minds of their own, and in comparison all it can take is a horse to slip and fall or something with you, and that could be really, really serious.
Wow. Okay, and so you looked at the products around the protection available in the market, and that wasn't cutting it for you. You were not happy with it. They were uncomfortable, and therefore you wanted to do better. And that's how you went on to set up the business.
Yes, and actually, whilst we started the development, I had like the concept of the original design, which is like a armadillo style shell, if you like, which comes together with an adjustment system. I tried to use a lot of off-the-shelf foam technology that was out there, and found that there's some great marketing behind some of these foams, but not great results. And so we actually worked with chemists to develop not one, but two unique blends of polyurethane foam. So it was that kind of way that, we were innovating and design. And then when we came up against another hurdle of, okay, we can't actually find a material which has the right sort of feel by being soft and stuff, but still having that level of impact protection. So we had to sort of innovate again and go a level deeper and go down the material side of things too.
Brilliant. Did you, when you set up the business, did you get any help? I mean, you said it comes so far, Strathclyde University. Is that the business school?
So it was through, it's called Strathclyde Inspire now. At the time, it was like the Strathclyde Enterprise Hub. Yeah, I had really good help actually from Strathclyde, both in terms of like introductions to mentors, getting in front of people, and also they did sort of have little pots of funding here and there, which was really good to get going. They actually paid for a website to be done way back when. It's still the same website, and we've just had to kind of add on to it. So Strathclyde were great. We did participate in things as well, like Scottish Edge, Converge, and yeah, kind of through all those sort of introductions. That was really good. I think that was something that was quite important for me going through the process, was to be surrounded actually by people who were going through something similar. Because
Yes.
being in your early 20s at the time, which I was at the time, all my friends were away traveling the world or getting paid quite a lot on grad jobs, and it's quite a different thing to be going through setting up a business. So it was good to kind of have that network to rely upon.
Brilliant. And now you are a few years down the line. Is it a team of 5 of you?
Yeah, so there's a team. Yeah, there's a team of 5 of us at the moment. We were actually, as COVID was hitting, a team of 6 before we were launching, and that kind of threw a bit of a spanner in the works. So we're in the process of rebuilding, which is interesting, because getting through the COVID years, it was definitely a bit of like hang on and firefighting.
Yeah, so tell us a bit more about COVID and how did that affect the business? How did it affect you? How do you get through COVID? Do you need to pivot your business in any way?
So yeah, I think for us, we were in a really strong position before COVID hit. We'd managed to raise a lot of non-dilutive funding. I had also had a seed round with angel investors that fell through, but I managed to kind of trigger the rest of the non-dilutive through a bit of debt financing. Also took a loan from a family business, which was stressful at the time. And yeah, we were in a strong position, had a great team in place. We were about to sort of hit the ground rolling. We did a trade show called Beta International. It was a pre-launch, got all the press and stuff there. And next thing you know, COVID hit. I think for me personally, if I'm honest, as someone who was just like work, work, work for such a long period of time, it, it definitely allowed me to just kind of take a minute and take a breath and sort of reset. In terms of how it was for the business, it definitely prolonged our capacity, to be able to actually make margin on products. That's something that was probably delayed about a good 18 months because we had to bring all our own manufacturing in-house, which wasn't ever originally the plan. So it definitely affected our profitability, and it affected our ability to actually get in front of people. We are quite an innovative company. So we tried to overcome that. One of the things that we've brought in that we still offer today is a virtual fitting service where we could have a call just like this, whether it be on like WhatsApp or something, and try and overcome some of the difficulties with buying body protectors online. So that was definitely a positive to take away from it. But yeah, it definitely put a massive spanner in the works for how we were going to kind of initially scale the business.
Yeah, yes, okay. And what is your geographical, I mean, is there a particular geographical area you focus on, or anybody can buy your protectors?
Yeah, so anyone can buy our protectors now. Initially, we didn't insure to sell in the US, and the reason for that was our product liability was almost double. We are, I'm delighted to announce, as of this year, able to trade in the US as well. However, our focus was very much initially who was within reach and distance. So kind of Scotland, north of England is where we sort of started. Since then, we've expanded across the UK. We're still trying to grow in terms of our number of stockists across the south of England and Wales in particular. We do also sell in the Republic and Northern Ireland. So it has been trying to focus on what's closer to home initially before expanding out the way. But we have had B2C customers in Hong Kong, Finland, Germany. So we can definitely ship there. But initially the focus was let's get this right here. And
Yes,
one of the reasons for that as well was the capacity issue. It's how
yes.
much we could actually manufacture and deliver upon.
Hmm. So where do you get your stuff manufactured then?
So we still manufacture here in the UK. Without kind of going into too much detail, we are in quite exciting talks with another Scottish business to hopefully take over some of the manufacturing. And it's great as well because they are an inclusive business that work alongside people who may have invisible disabilities and things like that. So that's really exciting. So we have some initial talks with them going on. But yeah, at the moment we're still doing manufacturing. I do have margin finally on all protector types. But it's been quite important to us, I think, in terms of the foam side of things, to keep that close to home because that's the stuff that's going to really protect you inside the product.
Okay, and if people want to buy the product, they buy it online, they go to a shop.
Yes, so you can buy online from FOMOprotection.com. We also have somewhere in the region of 12 to 15 stockists, I think, at the moment across the UK. And yeah, so it depends if there's a stockist in your area. If you're not too sure, you can also get in touch with us and we can point you in the right direction.
Brilliant. And Carmen, what are the plans, say 5 years from now? Where would you like to be with the business?
In terms of the growth of the business, what we want to have is equestrianism as our showroom, showcasing the technology, improving it, and we would then like to sell the technology to other brands and other sports. So everything from mountain biking, snow sports, um, motorsports, even looking towards perhaps doing some things with defence and security as well. So having equestrianism as our showroom and scaling out with the technology to sell into brands in these other areas.
Okay, so you will go into other sports where people get hurt.
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good, excellent. So tell me what's been the biggest challenge as a young entrepreneur to get a business off the ground?
I think biggest challenge. I think for me, it's just, I don't know if this is necessarily a challenge, but I think what you have to just overcome is every single hurdle. So, which makes sense, but it's just having the tenacity and capacity to keep going. I think that there's definitely, been a couple of notable points for me where I think most people would have given up. And I just really had to sort of dig deep. I think that if you have a really strong and clear vision of where you're trying to get to, and you can see that even if it's not been the huge like leap forward that you're wanting to take, but you have taken those 3 tiny steps, and you look at where you were 6 months to a year ago, and you're a much stronger position. I think it's kind of clinging on to that, and it's just having the mental strength, I think, to keep going when times are really hard, because you do as well get a lot of people, I think, around you who are like, not a lot of people, but you will get people who question, is it worth all the sacrifice that you're making? And I think like only you can answer that. So it's just kind of keeping that mental strength to keep going on to the next step.
Is it worth all the effort and
Yeah.
suffering that goes into building a business?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I think for me it is. I think that I think it's an interesting one, because I think that if you really have a clear vision, and I think you know yourself within your gut. So that's another thing I would say is like I'm quite a big believer in gut feelings, and if I've had a gut feeling about something before, where I'm a bit like, it does tend to be correct. And I think like for me, if I ever get to the stage where my gut's telling me something quite strongly, or it's not best to continue, or we need to kind of change path, I do try and listen to that.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely, gut feeling is an entrepreneurial attribute. Um, Now, how do you handle rejection? Because building a business, you get a lot of that.
I think for me, initially, especially when it comes to like the product, if you've like engineered something, and there's no such thing as a perfect product, there's absolutely not. I think I would kind of cling on sometimes to some of the negative feedback and ignore the fact that okay, we've maybe had 2 people that have said something negative, and you've had 50 people who said something really, really positive. But see now, what I actually do is I think I've gotten over the fact that it's not something like personal, and just because this one person thinks that doesn't mean that you don't have another 50 that think positively. But I do bank that information. I think that sometimes rejection or negative feedback is a good thing. And I think in terms of, if you were talking about out raising investment and things like that, rejection, I'd definitely use that as like fuel. I think sometimes actually a healthy bit of rejection's a good bit of motivation.
Yes, brilliant. Certainly, running a business is not for the faint-hearted.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Okay, so have you read a book that you want to share that has had an impact in your life?
Yes, so the book that I've read that's had an impact is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. And the reason for that is I think there's so many things in that book that I can relate to. And, people listening might be like, who, this young girl, why does she relate to Phil Knight? But for me, it's a company like Nike who have grown into this huge establishment. But when they started, they were one of like a few, cool running shoe companies, and they've had lots of problems similar to us, I hate to say. But you go to manufacturers, you get samples, things come in wrong, like and you're constantly having to kind of firefight and evolve, and just as I say, keeps taking those steps forward. So that's something that I really resonated with, and I think that there's a period as well in the book where, you know, it feels like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happened. Won't ruin it for anyone who's not read it. Definitely read it. But yeah, they have a bit of a legal thing going on, and you know, thankfully we don't have that. But I definitely think that you kind of resonate with the fact that it can be quite isolating being an entrepreneur. And reading it made me think, okay, I'm not the only person to ever go through this, and then look at what has been built there.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a great book, and the movie Air is a good watch as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so just wrapping up, what would you say to, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Have fun. Don't take yourself too seriously. And it's okay that you didn't apply and get into vet school, because you're going to go out and have a successful career in an industry that you love anyway.
Brilliant. Wonderful. That's excellent. Well, if anybody wants to learn more about FOMO, just visit the website FOMOprotection.com. And Carmen, it's been a real pleasure having you on board with us at the Business Spotlight and for sharing your experience as a young entrepreneur. Thank you so much.
Thank you.